All right, welcome to another episode of the Middle Aged Metalhead, and today we have a very special guest with us, Uday Benegal from Rock Machine and Indus Creed, a man who's been iconic to the Indian rock scene, who's been doing it for more than 40 years now. Welcome, Uday.
Thanks, man. Thanks a lot. Great to be here. Great to chat with you guys.
Yeah, because when we say the word legend here, it's usually just thrown around. But I think GK and I would definitely agree that you're one of the rare few who actually embodies the term, at least maybe for people like us, because you carved out a space for the entire genre of Indian rock, so as to say, when there was actually no blueprint. So thank you again for agreeing to do this.
You're most welcome. And let me confess, I mean, when people use words like this, it makes me very uncomfortable. I mean, yeah. Use it by all means in your own thing, but uh, I find it uncomfortable to accord adjectives like that to me. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the sentiment, man. Thank you.
So, I saw you last year, or rather, saw the band last year in Fandom in Bangalore. I think it was around May 2024. And looking at the cross section of the crowd, right, there was people who probably first heard Rock and Roll Renegade on cassette. There were people who probably only heard your music through streaming. So there was an entire cross section where the music had spanned at least two generations, if not more. And the commonality between all of us were that all of us were singing along to your songs, right? And how does that how do you keep doing this over so many years? What is it that drives you? And also a loaded question maybe, but will we ever see another Indus Creed album?
Okay, the last one is a tough one to answer, but you will hear more indiscreet music, whether it's an album or another format. That we have to see because people's methods of listening, people. I mean, the entire system has changed, and I'm not necessarily saying that in a negative way. I'm not a nostalgia guy. Sure, there are certain things I'm nostalgic about. Absolutely. I mean, I'm nostalgic about the days when an LP came home, and it was a very special moment when that LP came home. And you sure cassettes were great too, with all the fold out liner notes. But there's something special about that LP shrink wrapped, pull off the shrink wrap, and you've got that glue smell, which is just freaking. I mean, it's like in all the best ways, it's like cocaine for children, you know? Or without any of the side effects. That smell, and then pulling out the LP, looking at that vinyl is just a beautiful thing. And then of course, while playing it, reading all the liner notes on the back. I mean, for me, I get nostalgic about stuff like that from time to time, not too much. But otherwise, apart from that, I accept the fact that everything has changed, and it's okay to change, and people are listening in music in different ways. What keeps us going is, I don't know, man. There's nothing. I mean, there are other things I enjoy doing as well, but few things for me really can, if anything at all, Uh, can equal the sensation or the feeling of being on stage with a band and cranking it out. I mean,
Mm,
simply put, I love the process. I'm a slow songwriter, so you've noticed over the years we've been very unprolific. I mean, prolific is certainly the it's like the antonym of that would be used to describe our songwriting and putting out of albums. But that said, it's also because I mean, part of it. I won't blame that. I won't blame it solely on that, but it's not easy putting out albums in India, in a country like this. You know, you don't have record companies support. You really got to muster up those energies, get the songs down, get into a studio, put down the expense, find a way to make that money back post the album without allowing the thought of I must make this money back after I release the album. If that thought infiltrates and contaminates the creative process, then it's a difficult game to play because you don't want to think too much about you don't want to think about the future when you're writing your songs. But at the same time, when you're creating your songs, you want them to be sustainable and you want it to be something that you can keep doing. So it's fine. It's that balance. I guess we're driven enough to want to keep creating music and keep making music. Really, that's really what it is. I can't put it down to anything. I mean, I've been through my dry spells as well, very dry spells. So it's a seesaw, man. It's a constant battle for really wanting to do it, really loving to do it, but having to sort of really get that mojo going every now and then, especially in the way the world is today. I mean, we're looking at a level of chaos that is, I think, at least for the existing generations, we haven't seen this level of chaos. And but yeah, man, music keeps the soul intact. And once when I get on stage and I'm up there with the band, and the sound is good and the vibe with the audience is good and we're connecting, there's no feeling like it, man. And so it's like a drug. You want to keep coming back to it. You want to keep returning to that environment. But to return to that environment, you've got to create the environment. And in order to create the environment, you fuel it and you feed it with the music. So that really is what drives us. Um,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
So has your approach to performing live, like what you touched upon right now, has it changed from the way it was in your rock machine days, like way back in the late '80s, then in the '90s, then to now? Do you prepare differently? Like, I just want to get into that headspace to understand, like, a band which has been doing this for almost close to 40 years. Like, how do you guys keep that performance so fresh? Because I've seen you guys at least 4 times now, and every time it's a different energy, and it's always like, fresh. It sounds like you guys look hungry on stage. So what is that thing which keeps that drive going, especially when you guys are performing live?
Well, certainly there's been a change from the days of yore to now. I mean, technology's changed things in many many ways. The rehearsal room is different from what it used to be. Uh, In-ear monitors have changed the game for singers. Certainly for me, man. For me, that the invention of the IEM for me was manna from heaven. It was like a gift from God, literally. Having battled guitar players and drummers and cymbals, and not having the understanding that we should be wearing earplugs when rehearsing in those days. Who knows what damage has taken place physiologically? So that's one part of it. So the rehearsal environment has changed in many ways because the technology is a lot better. It's more relaxed and stuff. But also, I mean, the way we put ourselves out on stage is very different from how it used to be. I mean, in the 80s and 90s, we were very much like, especially through the early 90s. I think we sort of started getting our independent grounding even with time. I mean, that's kind of like the passage for any creative person, is to find your voice and get closer and closer to the truth of your own voice. So you start out by being a cover band, and you've got very choreographed movements, and the look is very 80s, 90s glam rock American bands, that kind of stuff. And over a period of time, that changes. You're right. Once that my attitude towards the music changed, my attitude towards myself changed, my place in the band changed. All of us in a relationship, and I think we're much more relaxed on stage than we used to be. I mean, it's not like we enjoy ourselves as much as we did previously. But previously, like I said, because it was choreographed, you were really more aware and more conscious of an audience in front of you. The awareness is still there, but the focus is less on the audience and more on the music. And I think that comes with having done it over and over again in many ways. You find different ways to express yourself, but the intent, at least for me, the intent is always to express myself with as much truth and honesty as I can. And by truth and honesty, I just mean releasing myself to the performance itself, to the I don't even want to use the word performance because that becomes a performative act. But to the process, to the creative expression, really. So when I'm on stage, if I can find those moments, and sometimes those moments are longer uh, than other times, of being completely lost in the song, that for me is the best, because that's when one is in a sense channeling. So it's a kind of, but then of course you kind of return again to that moment where you're aware of the fact that there's an audience in front of you, and you communicate with the audience. I communicate with the audience, but I don't want to spend that much time with the banter. There was more banter in the early days. Now it's really more about playing the music. So yeah, I guess it happens with the passage of time and the changing of one's own, I won't say one's own nature, because one's nature remains the same, but certainly one's own awareness, self-awareness becomes hopefully deeper and more acute over time. And I think that really alters the way you do things on stage. And the freshness, I think, just comes from being on stage with these guys. Yeah, man, we're on stage again, and let's have fun, really.
Yeah. Going back to something you touched upon just now, how easy or difficult was it to get signed to a label like back in the day, especially with Rock Machine? And I think you were pretty much like, and big exposure as well, big label, and something that broke through nationwide, right? I mean, earlier you had maybe smaller bands famous in their particular areas, but with Rock Machine, how easy or difficult was it?
Well, it was neither easy nor difficult, because we didn't even really. the prospect didn't even present itself to us because it wasn't really there as an option. Record companies at that time were like, labels that were really distributing Western music in India if they weren't putting out film music in India. And it sort of happened. It was more than an accident of circumstance. We had done this tour with CBS India, and it was like a fashion show come rock concert. One of those peculiar combinations that kind of worked in its own strange way. It was a lot of fun. And R.V. Pandit, who's really a book publisher, the man who started CBS India, he was a book publisher who was of a very different generation, and the generation gaps in those days were even bigger than they are today. And somebody of that generation did not listen to our kind of music at all. But a man like that really had the foresight and the prescience to see something because he saw us play and he saw the fact that we were writing our own songs and figured that this is something that should be given attention to and should be given an opportunity to get out to a wider audience. So he's the one who actually came to us and said, would you guys, I think it's time you guys record your own stuff and come on, I'll give you some money. Not big money. And the names, they're all great names because we associate them with the Western labels, but they're not big, powerful labels over here that put their money and their A&R behind you and do whatever they can to create. It did not work like that at all in those days. And the days before the viral effect of media, rather before the term was used to describe the viral effect of media. We experienced the virality of it from the fact that this thing was put out on cassette tape, and we used to just play college festivals and stuff like that. You didn't really have concerts. And that virality was word of mouth, really. There was no social media. So it was word of mouth. I guess the rarity also of a band in India writing their own stuff and putting stuff out. And somehow the songs clicked. They just worked for people. And yeah, a lot of it was, if I connect the dots now, for me, it all seems like it was meant to happen. But when you're going through it, it's all like, wow, and what the hell's going on over here? So yeah, we didn't go seeking out a record label because there were no record labels to talk to. But we were really lucky that a man with a vision came to us and said, I think you should put your songs out. And we said, okay, let's do it. And we went into the studio and recorded them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you how pervasive the influence of this movement was. I remember in Bollywood quiz contest, I participated like back in the day, like when I was in class 7. And one of the questions was, this band was previously known as Rock Machine and they've recently changed their name. And the answer was Indus Creed. And then to see that and connect and see one of your videos on MTV back when they were like, I was just getting into the Western music, so as to say, and see Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses, and then have like an Indus Creed video. I think that is also something that we've lost because there was like a huge movement towards the late 90s of this surge of independent music coming out from India. They had like big labels pushing it, bands like yourself. If you have to go to a little extreme where you had, bands like Millennium, Euphoria was also breaking out at that point of time.
Yeah.
I think that is something lost. So I feel, from your perspective as someone who's been in the scene, so as to say, for so many years, what unique challenges and opportunities do you see for young Indian bands, especially now when this kind of music is not quite as pushed as it was, like, say, 20 or 30 years ago?
Yeah, the reason why it was pushed is because that's what people like listening to. So, one has to take into account the fact that people's tastes have changed as well. College festivals in those days were really about rock bands. College festivals today will might program some rock bands, but fundamentally, and some of the bigger colleges have pretty big budgets. They'll program either a big Bollywood act or they'll get a sort of mid-level Western band, or they'll get a mid-level Hindi Bollywood, like a mid-level Bollywood act, and then the indie bands. So the priorities have also changed. The listening tastes have also changed. But you're right. MTV was its own thing, right? MTV had its ecosystem. Accessibility was so limited, so people appreciated whatever we got through whatever channel was available. And MTV really was the main funnel at that point through the 90s. We started with prior to satellite television, where none of that even was there to sort of avail of. But yes, MTV and Channel V played a very, very big role. Satellite TV played a very big role in creating and providing a spotlight, really. Now it was business catching up with the creative movement. That's always how it is. It's catching up because people are getting out there and doing their thing. uh, Kids on the ground are responding to what they're hearing and what they're seeing. And then somebody says, oh, I can make money off this. Not a bad thing, but someone recognizes and says, I can make money off this, either through organizing concerts and festivals, or whether it's a bigger business like a television channel will say, I can make money off this by getting advertising, by focusing on this band that seems to have a big following. So, yeah, it was a thing that it was an ecosystem that sort of fed itself in a really nice, organic way. I mean, again, change, man. Things have changed, the media has changed. I won't say that anything is worse or better today. It's just different. I mean, in so many ways, it's better because nowadays you can record your music, if not at home, at least in a semi-home studio, much more easily. Previously, you couldn't do that. I mean, we only recorded live drums on our third album, and that wasn't even in India. Our first two albums under the name Rock Machine, Rock and Roll Renegade, and The Second Coming. For both the albums, the drums were all programmed drums on drum machines because we didn't have studios that could record live drums well. Even in the early 90s, when we recorded the self-titled Indus Creed album, we went to LA to do that because we didn't have studios here that could record that stuff. But today you have studios which get you a great drum sound and great, I mean, engineers today also have a much more rounded sense of what uh, bands can sound like. I mean, we're putting out music over here that sonically are equivalent to anywhere else in the world. So that really evens out the thing. So there are many positives. Social media has changed the game in a very big way in that while, yes, it is a very, very crowded place and the whole algorithm game, frankly, it sucks dick. But that's the way it is. But if you can find a way to uh, game the algorithm in ways, I mean, that's where the younger ones who are, more hip to devices and the technology, they're learning how to do this. They learn how to put out enough stuff to uh, stay present, and at the same time they're working their own material out and putting out albums. They're releasing them in interesting ways. Honestly, I'm learning a lot from watching the way kids today are putting out their music. So even when we put out more Indus Creed stuff, which will happen, I guess, sometime next year. And I've also been working on some solo stuff for the first time. I've already recorded a few songs recently. I haven't figured out yet what to do with it. Firstly, it's not an album's worth. I'm not even thinking of album anymore. As much as I love albums and love listening to albums, I also understand the value of the whole streaming model system where the algorithms will feed you music of similar. I mean, there's a benefit to that. I've got so much interesting music that have been sort of fed to me by a streaming service's algorithms because they've understood the kind of stuff that I like listening to. But I don't remain stuck with only that way of listening. I will listen to albums as well. But I do realize that people don't really listen to albums anymore. And we learned that with Evolve, actually. And that was like, what, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, that you put out an album's worth and you've really got to start pushing those singles out for people to listen to because they will listen to the first couple of singles. Fireflies had a video, so everyone listened to Fireflies. Of course, it's the most commercially accessible or the most easily accessible song on the album. Other tunes like Dissolve and Come Around took a little while, but they really found their roots with the audience. But the thing is, you've got to really work at it as against the current model of keep putting out a single, put out single after single, and then by the time you put out your fifth single, just say, okay, now you can get all these 5 songs on an EP. They club together on under a common title, which is sort of given the category of an EP. So fine, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. That's the way you like to listen to your music. That's the way I put the music out. I have no problem with that at all. Would I love to be in the process still, to work with the producer who just basically crafts out an entire album with us through a process of time, which reflects the band's sensibility at that phase of their life and phase of their existence. No doubt, but that's not the way it is, and it's cool. I mean, what to do? So be it. But the way things are today, there's a lot more independence and there's a lot more individuality as far as the power base is concerned, as far as the power systems are concerned. You don't need record companies to fund, record, distribute, or even market your stuff. Now, the challenge here is, are you going to be quick enough to learn the game to be able to do it yourself? And but also with the way things are right now, there's no one system. You can use the social media system, you can use all kinds of systems and find different ways to put it out. And I mean, a lot of the kids today are putting out using some really innovative ways of releasing their music. I'm finding that some newer artists are are in fact, interestingly, moving away from the streaming services and going back to whether it's things like Bandcamp or whether it's just putting out uh, physical hardware-based stuff. Ankit Dayal, who I met recently, Ankit Dayal, singer from a band that used to be called a band that used to exist say maybe about 10 years ago, called Spot in the Box, an indie band in Bombay. Great band. And Ankit is one of the singers. And he recently put out his solo album. It's not on streaming services. He combined that with an art show with I think, I think he combined it with knitting or crochet lessons and stuff. It was kind of like a gathering. I mean, the thing is, whether that's your bag or not, I think it's beautiful that musicians today are looking at the scenario and saying, the traditional models, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. And I'm not really sort of uh, sold on the traditional model of putting music out in a specific kind of way. I'll find my own way to do it. Whether it works or not is beside the point. It's the independence and the freedom of expression and the actioning of that creative expression that I think is remarkable. So I can't really say that it was better then or worse now or worse than or better now. It's just different, and people are adapting to it in really interesting and fascinating ways.
So, looking at the modern age of music, if you will, what's your take on AI and how artists are using it today? Is that uh, are you somewhere in the middle, or a yay, or is it a hard nay? Because it seems to be quite polarizing with artists as well.
Personally, I have no fear of AI. I don't, because for me, AI is just another tool. It's just another technological development, and it's a great, incredible technological development. And with every new technology, there will always be a certain number of people who respond with fear because there is the fear of losing livelihood. And I can understand that fear, but I'm just saying what happens, it becomes a doomsday announcement that, wars are, all the world is going to collapse because of this thing. And that's been bullshit all the way through. I mean, just forget it. I mean, we don't even have to go as far back as horse-drawn buggies to motor cars and stuff. Let's look at recent history, the invention of the internet. I mean, there were so many people, especially the powers that be, that start to flail their hands and beat their chests about how the internet is going to destroy the world and this, that, and the other. It's information accessible to all. Then came social media. Uh, can you just give me 1 second, please? Yeah, I just
Yeah.
got a very important call by Postman. Yeah. Hello? Sorry, man. I'm expecting a parcel, and that's my speed postman. I don't want to lose him, but it's going
Yeah.
to It's going to be an interesting thing to watch for people. He's on the line.
So see, GK, I'm not the only one facing issues with a personal office this week.
Hello? हाँ, वो पार्सल आया है स्पीड पोस्ट पे। हाँ, ठीक है, मैं आता हूँ। Like, आप यहाँ पे आओगे या मुझे वहाँ पे आना है? ठीक है, वहीं पे रखो, मैं आता हूँ। Thank you. Sorry, guys. Hey, viewers, that was me figuring out my postman for my speed post pickup. If anybody wants to know it, it's very interesting. It's a crucially important, critically important package. These are, I finally, after years of complaining about banana chips being unnecessarily thick and badly seasoned, I found a company online through wonderful social media. Talking about social media. See, this is how it works. That that markets, I mean, outstanding, excellent, pristine Kerala style banana chips, thin plantain chips, crisp, beautifully fried, lightly salted in coconut oil. So that's my package. Anyway, coming back to what we were talking about. Sorry, just jog my memory. Where were we at on that? What did you just ask me?
On the fear of AI.
AI, yeah. So again, now with AI, just like with social media, it's a tool, and I think with any of these things, whether it's the motor car, whether it's the electric knife, whether it's the internet, whether it's social media, and whether it's AI, it's not the technology that is to be feared. It's the humans wielding the technology. It always comes back to that. So I think this thing about AI, and sure enough, AI can be misused, can be abused. If people are choosing to use AI now to make background tracks for advertising commercials, for example, and don't require a composer to come in and do it. Well, you know what? If you were a composer creating jingles and whatnot, understand that the landscape has changed, the business has changed, and find other ways to express yourself creatively. That's the thing I think about us as human beings. We're fundamentally incredibly powerful, creative beings, and we can find all kinds of ways to express ourselves. We get too used to certain systems paying us and maintaining us in certain models or structures of existence, and when those structures start to break down and turn into something else, we start to get be understandably afraid. But I think it's important to confront that fear, get past it, and say, okay, fine, this is the situation now. What can I do using these incredible creative faculties that I have within myself? And find other ways to not necessarily game it, but a work around, find other ways to put my music out, find other ways to sell my paintings, whatever it is, write my books and put it. And people have been doing this since time immemorial, man. So, I mean, why is it different now? I think AI, particularly, I mean, of course, we're talking about AI in the context of the music business or creation of music. But AI fundamentally as a learning system, as a self-learning technology, my belief is it's freaking game changing in the most positive ways. The thing we got to work on is changing ourselves and our own consciousness, our own sense of perspective and how we see the world. It's our consciousness, it's our individual sense of awareness. I think that is the thing that needs to be worked on as a species, individually and collectively. If we get past the greed, the avarice, the control, the power play, all of that stuff, and we work together more collaboratively, more cooperatively as community, in ways that benefit each of us and all of us, because the community's success is my individual success. My individual success is also the community's success, as long as I'm not undermining people in the process. So really, it's not the technology; it's the people. You've got a bomb, but if you can invent a bomb, but if you don't drop the bomb, it's harmless. They invented the nuclear bomb, and then when they dropped it, we saw what happened. It's really the human beings there. So I think people should stop fearing the technology and just work on themselves and work on the people in the system. That's it.
See, we've seen, I mean, I personally also have seen a lot of people currently using AI to write lyrics,
Mhm.
and which obviously comes across as someone who has heard like music. I'm sure everyone here, can just hear like a couple of paras and they know like, this is as generic as it can get. But that is something which we can't say about the way your lyrics have affected thousands and thousands of people over the years. So then let me just ask you, when you write lyrics, do you consciously aim to order like a broader social or philosophical theme? Or do you just tend to stay rooted in personal storytelling? There are a lot of songs, like for example, The Money from Evolve, that I felt was a commentary on what was going on in the country at that time, in
Mhm.
2010, 2011, with the anti-corruption stuff coming out. Or say, in contrast to say something like A Pretty Child, one of your more famous songs, which I felt like was a more personal story. So could you discuss about that? Would you want to delve deeper into how those songs particularly, and maybe your entire evolution of how you write lyrics and approach those themes come into and play into your music, both in Indus Creed or maybe even for Arms for Shanti and Whirling Kalapas? How does that uh, come together?
So the thing is, as far as writing words is concerned, there's no fixed methodology, but a way it's kind of tends to follow for me is, I I usually work with the melodies and the chord sequence and a rhythmic feel to begin with. I don't start with lyrics. A lot of people write words first. I mean, I've got lots of little ideas that I've jotted down, individual lines or maybe two lines or maybe a chorus sort of held somewhere in the notes section of my phone. But by and large, I don't sit and write the lyrics of a song and then create the music to that. And most of the time, I'm sitting with my guitar, I'm doodling, I come up with a chord progression and a melody. For me, very importantly, is also the rhythmic energy of that. It's one thing about having a melody, but it's the cadence of it, it's the intensity of it. What am I hearing in my head in terms of whether it's going to be a half time kind of groove, whether it's going to be a double time kind of groove, whether it's going to be a heavy groove, whether it's going to be brushes, that kind of stuff. I've got that feel of what the energetic feel of the song is. That kind of leads me to the words, because there are plenty of words and ideas that are kind of lodged somewhere in the archive of the subconscious that are waiting sort of to be picked on. And they find their way to the songs because they're already there. So I respond. So the words kind of feed into the energy that the melody and the rhythm is sort of starting off with. Now, in terms of the content of the songs, it really depends on how I'm feeling at that particular time. It's really, again, it comes down to where is this melody and where is this energy and where is this rhythm leading me to topically. Now, topically, all the songs for me are a response. I guess for all creative expression, finally, is a response to something, right? Or most of the time, it's a response to something. Whether it's a social situation, whether it's a personal situation, it's a response to something. It's an observation and a commentary on something or a reflection on something. But my intent each time, and I'm clearly I'm not always successful, but my intent with each song is not to make it about me. I never want any of the songs to be about me, even if the song is a very, very personal song. And I mean, the words I are being used, the word I is being used. Uh, for me, the making the universality, turning, exploring the universality of any subject, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a social situation in a country or globally, for me, it's my intention is to make this something that is accessible to people, to say that I connect with this because I resonate with it. And I resonate with it because it touches upon something within my own life. Either my reaction to things that are happening in the world or a relationship that I've had in the past, and this speaks to it. As an example, I'll give an example. As a friend of mine in uh, in Belgium. So he was, I mean, his friend who was not very much in touch with my music. I mean, once in a while we weren't like regularly in contact. When we put out Evolve, I think he just stumbled upon Fireflies because we put the video out. And he wrote to me and said, "Hey man," he said, "I just heard your song Fireflies," and he's saying it feels, and for me this felt really beautiful. He said, "It feels so personal." He's saying, "I feel like you've written the song about me." He's saying, "There's something about the song that I feel so connected to, that things that have happened in my life in the recent past, and it feels that this directly addresses that stuff. It's speaking so closely." For me, that's the intention. My intention when I write a song is, if it ever gets translated or transposed into that kind of scenario where it becomes somebody else's story, or rather somebody else takes that song and makes it their own, for me that is mission accomplished. So I'm not in favor of, "Hey man, look at me and see what hardships I've been through and what struggles I've been through," because I know that there's always somebody who's been through far greater hardships and struggles than I have. Whatever struggles and hardship I go through. So I would not want to make it about me. Even if it's a song that has been drawn from my experience, I understand that emotions are something that all of us feel. And that one bank of emotions, whatever combination, whatever intensity of it, is common to everyone on this planet. So whether it's anger, whether it's pain, whether it's joy, whether it's grief, we all tap into these emotions. And if that song can convey that emotion where somebody else says, "Yes, this emotion speaks to me," and speaks to things that have taken place or have taken place or I fear for in my life, then it's working for me. That's my objective, really.
Do you see, considering the chaos of the world around us, the chaos in India, and the current uh, societal climate, do you see art as, does it still have a possibility of societal change apart from, activism and revolution and things like that? Just pure art, do you think it could bring about societal change still?
Undoubtedly. But I will say that I also see societal change as not just a mass of people changing things. Yes, activism, great, wonderful. I mean, I was 13 years old when I saw the movie Woodstock and sat in my seat in Eros Cinema in Bombay at 11 o'clock in the morning, sitting to myself thinking, man, I was born in the wrong place and at the wrong time. I belong there. I want to be a part of that scene. And as much as I communicate to that whole community spirit and stuff, what I do feel more and more is that, of course, that gathering of people, that collective energy, all of that stuff is very, very important for societal change. But that only actually happens when there's first individual change. And I think whether you are getting out there and objecting to a war or objecting to an economic situation or a government's actions or whatever, religious groups' behavior, whatever it is, that's one thing. But I think equally importantly, if not more importantly, on a very individual and personal level, we each need to be working on ourselves first. And cliche as it is, because I think it's one of the most beautiful cliches that exist in the world today. What Mahatma Gandhi said about be the change you want to see in the world, I don't think there are very few aphorisms that nail it like that. You want to see a changed world, first change yourself, change your consciousness, change your outlook, change your perspective. You want you're objecting to the fact that there's so much cruelty and lack of kindness in the world. Be kind yourself, especially in situations that challenge the situation. Somebody comes in and bangs into your car in traffic. Can you at that point find presence? Can you find yourself in the present moment and just bring yourself down to the fact that this is not a personal act of aggression against me intended to hurt me? It was an accident. You bring it down to the moment to say, okay, how do I address this? It was an accident. Even if the guy was driving rationally, whatever it is, how do I bring it down to to a part to the heart and say, how can we talk heart to heart and sort this out? Instead of the knee-jerk response of I'm going to let my fists do the talking, or I'm going to start yelling and screaming and hurling abuse. So great challenge for me too. But when these things happen, I think it comes down to that. So we make the individual change. And to answer your question about the art, yes, the art is feeding every individual all the time, because the choices you make of the music you listen to, the movies you watch, the books you read, whatever it is, whatever you're reading, watching, listening to, the food you're eating, are all personal choices. And when you make those choices that are being creatively put together by people, you are making, I think you're making a bigger societal change already. Because your individual consciousness, I come from the school of thought that we're all part of one unified consciousness, and we all feed from it, and therefore we also feed back into it. And when we make these positive changes, we are influencing the common consciousness in a positive way. So activism, absolutely yes, but I don't think you necessarily need to go out on the street to make societal and systemic change.
There's a interesting thing that you said about choosing what you feed and what you put out to the world consciously. Last year, or was it year before last, you consciously chose to put out a song with this band called Bhayanak Maut. So when is Uday Benegal fronted extreme metal band coming out of Bombay? When can we expect that?
I, I'm not going to say never, because I don't know what the hell, I mean, what the fuck is going on in the world. So anything can happen. So listen, the Bhayanak Maut collaboration, they came from them. And I can't tell you that, I swear to you, nobody could have been as excited, as thrilled, as joyous about that whole experience than me. Because when they reached out to me, it was a real surprise. I was like, wow, really? I mean, I've met the guys, I know the guys and stuff, not well, but I mean, I've bumped into them at various concerts and stuff. So I would not have expected to be on their list. I think a lot of their own fans and followers were sort of caught off guard, because I'm not kind of certainly not typically the kind of guy you bring onto a metal album. But clearly they had something in mind when they brought me on, a certain application of my voice and certain things. And for me, it sounded great. Uh, I loved the song. I love those guys, man. I mean, that energy is something else. And yeah, getting on stage with them, the joy for me really was, of course, being in the studio with them. But when we played at iRock last 2 years ago, and they invited me to sort of be a part of that as well, that for me was, I mean, that was phenomenal. But yeah, whether there's a me fronted extreme metal album, I don't know. I might feature on one or two songs somewhere in the future if someone calls me in. But I mean, I'm not putting a metal band together, if that's what you're asking.
So, you've toured pretty much across the country, right? Any favorite cities to play in?
See, I can't say favorite cities, because at different times, different cities have also been have explored the rock scene differently. In the 90s, Bangalore was like a really, really big hub. We played some phenomenal concerts there. Palace Grounds was like a great place.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That was
Uh,
the first time I saw you guys. 94, I think. It was Rock Machine and Millennium.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Bangalore was a city we used to love to come to. The Northeast has always been great. I can't put it down to one city. Everyone talks about Shillong, and Shillong is great, of course. but it's all of the Northeast. I mean, I've had some fantastic experiences making music in. I mean, I've been to all the states in the Northeast except Tripura. I mean, even in terms of just physically present, and played in all of those states as well. But it's been different places, different times, and not necessarily a city. Very often, it's just been a festival or a college festival or a college event. You know, it varies. In the late '80s, it was uh, the IITs and the Manipal Institute of Technology, because those are the kind of bands those are the kind of colleges that would bring in bands like us, ragged, raw vagrants from the streets of Bombay to come and make an unholy noise that everybody had like a fantastic time sort of imbibing. But everything changes. So that was that phase. Then when it got more organized, satellite television, like I said, Bangalore was a big hub. Bombay has always been good. Played many great gigs in the South. Uh, Played some great gigs in Delhi as well, some insane gigs as well. But as a region, I would say the Northeast has been probably the most consistent over the years because they latched onto our music at the very, very beginning. So Rock and Roll Renegade, when it was put out we released it in '88. And there was absolutely no music being distributed by any record company. There were barely any record companies in India. And they were in the metros. They weren't even really even in the smaller towns of India. Forget about the Northeast. The Northeast had no corporate attention at all. They were really a very, very isolated region. And yet in was it 90 or 91, we were invited to play a concert in Kohima in Nagaland. And we arrived there at and that was when Dimapur airport was literally like, it was a very small, it was like a cottage industry airport. It was like a small shed, and you literally went and got your bags off the well, not off the runway, but close enough. And we drove up to Kohima. And as we get to Kohima, where there is no music available from what they refer to as mainland India, available there, all the kids used to drive Maruti gypsies at that time. It's a nice heady thing. And every gypsy that drove past with young people in it was blasting Rock and Roll Renegade. So they were all pirated tapes. But we had no problem because we don't care, man. The fact that you even know we have an album and you chose to go and get the album and you're playing it and you've invited us to come to your state and play, and we went on stage and everybody, they all knew all the songs off the album, was singing along. And then it's a feeling that you can't really express to anybody else. It's really something. So it's since then we've had a relationship with the Northeast of India, and we still continue to. So difficult. It's hard to pin it down to any one particular place, but there've been different spaces, different times, different relationships over the years. But yeah, but these are some of the ones. Calcutta in the late '80s again, for us late '80s. But I mean, Calcutta's musical legacy starts so much before that, and we used to play it in an open air theater called Open Air Theater. I think it was Rabindranath Tagore or something or the other. It had like a long name, but it used to be referred to as OAT, short for Open Air Theater, like an amphitheater in Calcutta. And we played a bunch of gigs there with alongside Shiva and the Great Society and Gary Lawyer and stuff like that. Again, that period of time, Cal was the place that we enjoyed going to most because like a seriously dedicated and knowledgeable rock audience. Bangalore became the next dedicated, knowledgeable rock audience. The Northeast has always been a dedicated, knowledgeable rock audience. So it's different parts of the country. Yeah. But yeah.
One of my formative memories of any gig was I can't remember how old I was. I would have been very young, like 9 or 10 years old. An uncle of mine had taken me to this fairground where there was an actual mela happening, and you guys were playing along with Shiva. I was just telling GK before we got on this conversation as well that that is one of my formative memories. I don't know what the hell was going on. But
And where was
it
this?
said it was this was in Shillong.
Oh, in Shillong. Okay, this is
Yeah. So I grew up there. So this is way back in the day. And then when I saw you guys again in 2015, I think for NH7 when Megadeth played. So the crowd, if you remember that stage, it was in the middle of some weird valley where they had created some sort of a setup. The entire audience gathered throughout the day. And again, I'm not saying this because you're here with that, but two times the crowd surged forward was one during Megadeth and one during Indus Creed. So the
Yeah.
entire audience just moved towards the stage. And there were multiple stages that everyone moved towards where Indus Creed was playing. And it was a magical experience watching, you guys play Thief, everyone singing every song note by note, seeing the fog across the hills come in. It was a magical, surreal experience to experience the songs and in that setting.
Well, that was a great concept for us too. I mean, Shillong, I mean, of course, the Northeast, but Shillong is a city. I guess Shillong is probably the Northeastern city we played at most often. Because I think Shillong just, I mean, everyone refers to it as the rock capital of the country. And I don't know about you, Abhishek, but my Shillong friends all say, no, no such thing. But that's it. There is no rock capital. I mean, let's just put that to bed. There is no rock capital in this country. If rock and roll is finding its way to any stage these days, hallelujah, you know. But Shillong, yes. Shillong always had like a very dedicated, a very committed rock crowd. And one of our earliest gigs in the Northeast was in Shillong, and that N87 gig was actually very special for us. It was a hell of an experience, and we had a blast in it. I love going back to Shillong in any case, whether I'm playing there or not. Whether it's to meet up with Lou Majau and uh, uh, Keith and Rudy Wallang, or whatever it is, all the other friends I have. Uh, Whether it's to go and eat jado and smoke plant medicine by by the lake, all of that stuff. It's a beautiful area, but it's also very, very rich in its own cultural history. I mean, Shillong is very rich in its own rock history. So many great musicians have come out of there. Guitar players like AJ Sen and whatnot. I mean, we all look up to these guys as our heroes there. I mean, the Great Society was one of India's. The thing is, so we often get described, and I always like to tell people that you are describing us erroneously as the first Indian rock band. So there were many rock bands before us. And then people say the first original Indian rock band. And I say, no, there were bands that put out their own stuff before us. And it's just that you never heard of them. And we didn't necessarily have a lot of exposure to that stuff ourselves. But we all stand on each other's. We all stand on the shoulders that came before us. And these guys, people like the Grit Society and Shiva and whatnot, they were our peers, but they were also our predecessors. And the Northeast, Calcutta and the Northeast and the Northeastern states were very, very rich in that whole cultural history. So we're very grateful to all of to them, but we're also so happy that we were able to make our own connection with the Northeastern crowd in a way that still continues to feed our souls very beautifully.
Looking forward, any touring plans confirmed for next year?
The scene in India doesn't work as organized a fashion as we would like it to. So it's literally like, okay, now the year has turned. We're getting into the next so-called season. Even the seasons are changing. The seasons are literally changing. I mean, right? It's been raining heavily in Goa for the past week, at a time where we're supposed to be in the middle of sweltering October heat. And this is happening all across the world, of course. But even gig season is changing, and that you can't pin it down to anything anymore. And last year we played a whole bunch of festivals. We had a fantastic run. This year it's pretty dry, and I'm hearing from a lot of indie musicians it's dry for them as well. We've also become quite slothful uh, in our own in our own comforts. Between Zubin, Mahesh, and myself, we're all busy doing our own individual thing from time to time. We don't want it to be as hectic as it used to be, but at the same time, we'd like to play a little more than we are playing these days. But it's cyclical, and let's see what transpires from this. I think the days, the time, this period right now is kind of. I think we're in a transitionary phase in many ways. I don't just mean this from the music industry point of view. I mean as a species, as a form of consciousness, as we are seeing in the chaos in the world. And I think that chaos is basically it's almost like that, that final, when you get your washing machine going and there's that final spin in the rinse cycle and it gets really hectic and chaotic and the fucking clothes are flying all over the place. And at some point it settles down and then you put it out to dry and everything. I think we're in that final spin cycle. How long that spin cycle will go, I don't know. This is my optimism speaking. But at some point it'll end and we'll come to some kind of peaceful space. Some people are talking about actually the official end of the Kali Yuga having taken place in March this year already. So true or not, I don't know. Going by those
Yeah.
pronouncements and all of these things, it resonates with you, take it. If it's anathema to your thinking, throw it out. It's all cool. But I do think that uh, on an energetic level, on a civilizational level, we're going through the deepest churn. And I'm saying we've had really horrible, horrible periods of time, whether it was Genghis Khan way back from when we couldn't remember, or the Crusades and various other religious purges, or the world wars. And people say we don't have as many wars, but then see what we're going through recently. And while everyone's been talking about the Middle East, we're not talking about Sudan and Rwanda and stuff like that. And Myanmar has been pushed aside. But I think all of this taking place, it's basically all of this shit coming to the top, to the because now we're all aware of it globally at the same time. Whereas previously you only heard of it
Yeah.
after the fact in certain parts of the world. Now you could be sitting in Papua New Guinea and you know what's happening in South Sudan, because of social media. And I think we're coming to a point in our own existence as human beings of some kind of a paradigm shift or some kind of a consciousness shift. So I think we're in the throes of it, which is causing all of this chaos. But I think we're going to head to a good phase. We're going to get to the meadow, but we've got to get through the bramble first. Get through the thorny bushes before you hit the meadow. And I think musically, we're all going to experience that as well. I think everyone's experiencing this chaos in their own music individually. I'm told that there are certain commercial forms of music that have been, I believe, Bollywood music from friends of mine who are in the Bollywood scene, saying the Bollywood music scene is being hit pretty heavily, especially the recording part, not so much the live part, but that will be the next the next phase. It's change. I don't see it as destruction. I just see the end as the end of certain cycles, so that new cycles can begin. And I think what we're going through as well, as far as the dip is concerned, is because we're heading into a new phase. And I do think creatively and culturally and artistically, we're going to move into a really beautiful phase. And this shit that we're going through is going to be the stuff that fuels us to get there, because it's going to be so much fodder, so much material to draw on, to write about and to create. But it also just gives that sense of frustration, like, man, fuck this shit. I mean, literally, it's for me, it's a beautiful double-edged sword, this chaos. Because on the one hand, it's, man, what is this chaos? Any semblance of predictability. Not that life was ever predictable, but the pace of change was so slow that there was a certain predictability. If I do this, then I can be reasonably assured that this will be the thing. I will record an album, I'll put it out, I'll, find distribution, I will do my marketing, I will get my articles put out, people will hear about it, we'll listen, and then I build my career in that sense. And people who do that individually with their own personal corporate careers or whatever, their own pursuits. We've reached a phase in life where you can start something that at one point had a predictable outcome, but I mean, don't bank on it. It's completely, you can do whatever you want and the exact opposite can take place. For me, on the one hand, there's that innate instinct of fear and frustration that comes with it, man. But fuck, it used to be like this. I could do it this way, and I knew that there would be this, at least a certain semblance of this kind of outcome. On the one hand, it's frustrating. On the other hand, I find it extremely liberating, because if there is nothing that is predictable anymore, and if there is nothing that has even the reasonable guarantee of a particular outcome, then do whatever the fuck you want to do, man. Do whatever really, actually, truly speaks to your heart. Because now you don't have to, because strategy is not going to help you. All the strategy that you employed previously, which was effective, strategy has less and less power now. The power really lies in the truth of your own expression. So get to the heart of what you want to do, and what you want to say, and do it without fear. Whether it collapses or not, who cares? Because you can do all the right things and it could still collapse. So why do the right things? Do the right things that are right within your heart, not right from the logical brain. So I find that that's the phase I think we're in. That's the way I see it, at least. That's my perception of it. And let's see which way it goes. So I'm kind of on my little rickety raft, held together with nice tight binds, and I'm sort of sitting on these choppy currents and saying, okay, you know what, I'm not going to fight the current, I'll see which way it goes, and I'll try not to sink in the process. That's the important thing.
Well, that's thank you so much for your time. But before we let you go, I know we are just running very close, and I know that you perhaps have a very busy day ahead of you. We on this channel love lists. All right. If you see our previous videos, GK and I, we love making lists. So before we let you go, if you had to tour or maybe organize like a concert of all your peers that you guys have played in the past, all the guys that you came up with, regardless of whether those bands exist or not, if you had to put up like a bill of six
Uh-huh.
bands, including Indus Creed, which would those other five bands be? Of course, you guys are headlining, and what would be that one say venue where you would host this gig?
Oh wow, man. I'm very bad at this kind of stuff. I tell you why I'm sucky. Because truly my list would be a very long list. And then because I have to narrow it down to a few, people start to assume that these are my top six. They're not my top six. They're just the names that came to mind. Because I would like 100 acts or 100 artists to be on that. And so it's not a priority. It's just what's coming to mind right now. And there's no order of preference. There is no, if anybody gets left out of the list, it's not because I don't like you, it's because I just forgot in the moment. That's all. But I want you to be there. So if I didn't mention you, I want you to be there anyway.
Yeah,
So
I'll use AI and change the section and put out a clickbait saying like only these bands are worthy according to Uday Benegal. Every band ain't shit. So
go ahead, man, and knock yourself out. I'll enjoy the entertainment that follows as well. Man. So yeah, okay. So who bands, man? Fuck, there's so many bands, and we played with so many great bands over the years, and so many individually great musicians. I mean, let's go with let's go with the Great Society slash Soulmate, because I mean they contain musicians. I say slash because Rudy's there and AJ is there and Lou Majao is there and Tips is there, and all the wonderful musicians are there and stuff like that. Um, let's bring on the F-16s. I love the F-16s there from Chennai. Um, we can't do a remembrance of old times and a celebration of new times without bringing on Gary Lawyer, because he's part of our history here. Uh, like I said, I'm just throwing out names. I think we should bring in Waterfront. Waterfront was a band that way preceded us, but featured some of the finest musicians that have walked the earth in this country. Derek Julian on guitar, Roger Dragnet bass, Rajit Barot on drums, Soli Dastoor, who was the man behind the band, on guitar and vocals and stuff. And if I'm forgotten anybody, then I'm sorry. I would bring back Divya. Divya was a jazz rock fusion band. Ranjit was part of that too. This keyboard player called Dinsha Sanjana, who was very much a part of. These guys are all our heroes, and we were coming into the scene because they were already established positions. Din has long been in the US, but Din is a fantastic keyboard player, and had this band with Ranjit Barot, Sanjay Swami Storms, we know him as, on bass. And then it became Carl Peters on bass, another fantastic bass player. How many bands have I hit so far? I'm pulling names out of the hat. Huh?
Four so far, yeah, two more.
Four so far. I've got to come up with two more. So six is not including us.
yeah, six is not including you.
Who can I think of? They're all there, man. They're all there in my head there. Uh, I would certainly bring on the earlier version of Aviel, the original version of Aviel, because man, that guy's voice. Yeah. Oh fuck! When I first heard Aviel, I forget his name, the original singer, and I heard that stuff, and they just blew genre. I mean, they just cracked any kind of genre stamping out the window. I mean, they were incredible. So Aviel for uh, to challenge all of that. Who else? I want to bring in someone really gentle. Uh, who is nice and gentle? Nice and gentle. There's so many wonderful musicians. I'll just bring in a nice and gentle musician of today. Because she has a lovely voice, and she really, for me, is reminiscent. Actually, strangely enough, is reminiscent of the folk singers of the Greenwich Village from the 60s and stuff. She's a girl from Sikkim called Anaushka Maske. And she did a gig with us a couple of years ago at Goa Serendipity Art Festival. And she's this wonderful young musician who plays guitar like Hendrix, by the way, not just lefty, but upside down. It's quite interesting. The strings are upside down. So she's playing a right-handed guitar and just literally turned the other way. And she plays very beautifully, and she sings really beautifully. And she's got this very lilting voice. And like I said, names that just came to mind in the moment. But the truth is, I want them all. Everyone, beyond all of this too. Did I make sense?
Yeah, that's six. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Uday, for doing this, and thank you so much for taking out time out of your schedule for doing this. And this will be, I hope, the first of many conversations that we have with you over the years. And look forward to connecting with you again very soon. And I look forward to see Indus Creed. And of course, you, whenever you come around these parts or I come around your parts, and if you guys are playing, more than happy to. It's always a pleasure to watch you guys live. So thank you so much for doing this.
You're most welcome. May I add a seventh band?
Yeah, and that's
Contemporary band Girish and the Chronicles, man. Just that's so good. And Girish Pradhan, man, what is that voice? Fucking hell. What do I say, man? Such nice guys and such incredible musicians. Wow. So yeah, like, see, if you don't shut me up, I'm gonna come up with an eighth band and
Sure, we go all day.
very good. But sure, man, happy to be here and happy to be chatting with you guys, and I'm always happy to talk about music.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
And thanks for keeping the spirit of this kind of music going, man. Because really, you know, everyone inevitably talks about whenever the rock enthusiasm goes into a bit of a slump, and everyone talks about, you know, the death of rock music, and I say it'll never die. At worst, it'll just lie out there in the gutter for a while and, you know, wallow in its own puke for a little bit. But it'll wake up. It'll clean itself up. It'll bring out the guitar. It'll polish those strings again and restring and change the skins on the drum kit, and it'll start to bang out again. Before you know it, there's going to be a band that's going to be blowing your fucking brains away. So it's thanks to the enthusiasm of you guys who keep the conversations alive, who keep the enthusiasm going and keep the spirit going there, because we're all in this together. It's not just a band. A band is nothing without an audience. You know? So that's why I'm a complete believer in the totality of energy and in a sense of community, because that's what keeps it going. And that's the spirit, right? Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
thank you so much, Uday.
Cheers.
Cheers.